Alright everyone, listen up! We've been fucking around too much with Coach Shroomraver. Let's make sure he progresses no further than the semi-finals.
Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and welcome to PPL NX Single Eliminations semi-final time. Yes indeed, we have made it to the semi-finals of the Single Elims bracket, and today we are going to be taking on Nova Blader, I believe it is, and the Bermuda Kecleons. Their links down in the description below, make sure you check them out. Not someone I've ever had a chance to play against before. I know that their run in the group stages was fraught with bad luck and hacks against them, which is very unfortunate, but it means that we come up against them right about now. Very threatening team to go up against. They can choose between Ogerpon Cornerstone, Primarina, Corviknight, Mamoswine, King Gambit, Infernape, Muck, Raikou, Thwackey, and Drifblim. Funny that both of us took Prim round 2 and Muck round 7. There's a few mons there that I've had extensive use with, and I know kind of how they play. Some things that are just very threatening indeed. The Corviknight can be difficult to take down defensively. There's some good amount of offensive bulk going on there as well. So, we are looking to try and break here with Life Orb Iron Treads, Max Attack Adamant, because after a Rapid Spin we're outspeeding everything they've got going on. Earthquake, Iron Heads, very good neutral coverage across the board. Supercell Slam is there effectively just for the Corviknight. We should be 2-hit KOing most variants unless they are incredibly physically defensive. Helping out, we have a very physically defensive but modest-natured Primarina here with the Rindo Berry, Hydro Pump, Draining Kiss, Psychic Noise, and Calm Mind. Hoping to use this as a bit of a lure to a couple of the things that should be able to take it on. You know, with Calm Minds going on and Draining Kiss, we can kind of try and maybe mitigate what the Raikou can do to us. And I'm hoping this will then, if we're at a decent amount of health, tempt in the Ogerpon, Rindo pops, and we can try and get big damage on that as well. Psychic Noise there, just for nice coverage against the likes of the Muck, and can prevent any kind of grassy terrain healing shenanigans that the Thwackey might try and offer as well. Next up, we have Yachiberry Ogerpon regular form with Ivy Cudgel, Stomping Tantrum, Leech Seed, and Spikes. This is one of our potential leads here. Can try and get some spikes up. The removal options are not wonderful. I believe Corviknight gets Defog, which is probably the best option they've got. Drifblim probably gets it too, but is not something that it necessarily wants to run. Ivy Cudgel, Stomping Tantrum, basically good across the board. Corviknight can obviously warm me to heaven and earth, but we can try and Leech Seed that and then go into something to try and check it. Then we have another potential lead here in Citrus Berry, the Dunsparce. We are max special defense, calm nature. We've got a good amount of speed on there just to creep through some of the lower speed tier stuff that they've got going on, the likes of the Corviknight, the Primarina, things like that. We have Rocks as a potential lead, Boom Burst, Thunderbolt, and Earth Power. Once again, fairly good coverage across the board. This is going to be an answer potentially to the likes of the Primarina. It can hit the Corviknight for at least good damage. Should be answering Raikou pretty effectively as well. Then we have Heavy Duty Boots Moltres making another appearance. Pretty necessary given the presence of the Corviknight. Fire and Flying go fairly hard into my opponent, so we have Fire Blast Hurricane. Scorching Sands is again good coverage. Can try and pass burns around the likes of Thick Fat Mamoswine, maybe even the King Gambit, and the Ogerpon. U-turn just on there to get us out of dodge in nasty situations. Final member of the team is going to be physically defensive Passimian. With a Citrus Berry, we are very, very heavily invested in physical defense. We've got enough speed on there to out-creep some of those non-invested, like some maybe Mamoswine, and things like that. A very invested Primarina will be outpacing too. Drain Punch, Gunk Shot, Earthquake, and Bulk Up. There is a lot of scope for a physically defensive Passimian to do a lot of work here. The only things it overly fears, if we can get some bulk ups up, would be the Primarina, for which we have the Gunk Shot. We should be outspeeding and trying to OHKO at +1 or 2. Things like a special Infernape could be a problem, but I'm more expecting that to be a physical variant if it shows. Things like the Raikou could be an issue, but once again, hopefully we should be able to take at least one hit from it, try and get some health back with Drain Punch. We can't hit the Drifblim, but I'm not overly expecting it to come against my team comp, so I'm kind of gambling on that a little bit, but hopefully we will have enough stuff to be able to deal with the Drifblim if it's here. So, that is the team we are going into this battle with. Let's get into the matchup screen and see what Nova has decided to bring against us. So, as you can see, Nova has decided to bring Infinite, Mamoswine, the Raikou, Corviknight, Ogerpon Cornerstone, and Muck. So, no King Gambit was really nice to see. Also, none of those problematic Drifblim sets running around either. No Thwacky is good for my Earthquaking that I might want to get done with a couple of my Mons. Looking at the matchups there, I'm pretty set that Corviknight won't be the lead. It could be realistically any of the others, maybe the Muck less likely. So Prim is actually going to be my lead of choice here. Should be a good matchup against, let's say, 4 of the 6 that my opponent has got going on. So I'm going to be leading with Primarina. Let's see how Nova decides to respond. So here we go, PPL NX Single Elims semi-final against Nova and the Bermuda Kecleons. They are going to lead off with their Mamoswine. As I say, I'm going with Prim. This is fine for me. Lead Mamoswine is often Focus Sash, and if I can bring it down to that, that would be great. They're going to have to be incredibly offensive to come even close to OHKOing me. So I'm happy to stay in here and just go for the Hydro Pump, hope to hit it, maybe take this thing down to Sash if it goes for Rocks or an EQ. And it is going to be the Earthquake that comes in. Now that is going to do over half to us, just about. We're going to be able to go for Hydro and land it, and as you'll see, that is indeed a Focus Sashed Mamoswine. So don't really want to be staying in here, unfortunately. Another Earthquake will KO us, and I can see Prim being able to do some decent work later on, even at just below half. So I'm going to want to get on out of there against the Mamo. We do have a few potential options. Passimian actually looking like the best one. It is brought in a physically defensive role this week, so I'm kind of hoping that we can go into Passimian and get some work done here. Now, I'm going to get on out of there, as I say, with my Prim, and I am just going to go into my physically defensive Passimian here. In comes the Earthquake once again from the Mamo, looking for the KO, but it does under half to my Passimian. Now, they may want to save this Mamo for Ice Shard later on against the likes of my Ogerpon or something like that, or a weakened Iron Treads. Either way, I am still going to go for the Drain Punch. The switch into Corviknight is looking like the most likely thing. It could also, of course, be the Muck. But I'm still going to go for the Drain Punch. If they wanted to stay in, I could have tried to pick it off. But they are going to make that play. Nova going into the Corviknight there shows that it's pressure, not mirror armor. We're going to go for Drain Punch, and that's going to do like 20-ish%, which is fairly respectable to what is clearly quite a physically defensive Corviknight. Now, I don't overly fear what this thing is going to do. The Brave Bird into me looks potentially quite obvious, which means my switch into Moltres is equally kind of obvious, and I rather think that they're going to want to get one out of here. So what I'm going to do is predict the U-turn, stay in, and go for Bulk Up, and see if we can't get some good damage going with Passimian early game. So as I say, I'm going to go for Bulk Up. If they do stay in Brave Bird, this means that we will be taking the hit. But as you'll see, they are just going to go for the U-turn, I guess, as I say, predicting that play into my Moltres and trying to get themselves better positioned against it, knowing that it is quite good into their team. So I'm now sitting at +1 attack, +1 defense with my very bulky Passimian, and I'm pretty happy with the situation we're in right now. Like, nothing really wants to come in and risk not KOing, in the case of, for example, the Raikou or the Infinite, and allowing me to get off a big Drain Punch in response. So they're going to have to try and get a little bit clever here, I would imagine, to get around this +1 bulk up Passimian. And in is going to come the Ogerpon Cornerstone, which I thought was odd at the time. Obviously that sturdy is still intact, but it's like, what are they realistically going to do to me? If they want to try and like Leech Seed, then that's fine. I'll just go for a couple of Drain Punches and basically take this thing out. But I always always forget about Encore on Ogerpon. I've run Ogerpon so many times, and I always forget about Encore. This is now a problem. I am locked into bulk up, and if they wanted to now, they could start hazard stacking, they could start leech seeding, they could U-turn into something to get a much better matchup. So I don't want to be staying in here. I am going to make the play out into my Dunsparce as arguably one of the better things to try and take on an Ogerpon Cornerstone at this time. Now, Nova is actually going to make a switch of their own here. They are going to get out of there with Ogerpon, and seeing me locked in, they are going to go into Raikou, not having to risk me going for a big Drain Punch or something like that, so they can get in for free. But this is actually going to work out quite nicely, given that the Dunsparce is one of the things that I brought as a potential check to the Raikou. So I'm quite happy with this matchup. I don't want to mess around with the threat though. This thing can very much have Aura Sphere, and I'm very much predicting it to do so. I'm just going to go for the Earth Power and gauge what kind of Raikou we are working with. It could be Assault Vest, it could be Setup, it could be Choiced, but I want to find out as quickly as possible what we're working with. Now Raikou is going to go for Calm Mind here, outspeeding us, getting the +1/+1. That's dangerous, but we all know that the Dunsparce is crazy bulky. It'll probably take a +1 hit. I'm going to go for the Earth Power, and that is not going to do a whole huge amount, and we see Leftovers. Now, seen Leftovers on this thing, seen Calm Mind, seen Earth Power doing less than 25%, there is, I would put money on a substitute coming my way. So it's looking to be sub Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, probably Aura Sphere, specifically for this and the Treads. But what I'm going to do therefore is go for Boom Burst. It'll hit through the sub, it's always doing more than Earth Power anyway, and I'm hoping that sub plus a couple of Boom Bursts will be able to take out this Raikou. So as you can see, there is going to be the sub taking this Raikou to just above half of its health. But we're going to go for the Boom Burst, that's going to hit through, and even with Leftovers, that is going to be a clean 2-hit KO on the very threatening Calm Mind Raikou, which is a big relief for me. Didn't really want to be playing around with this. As you'll see, I lock in on Boom Burst so quickly, I am no thoughts, head empty, kill the thing that's in front of me. So they're going to go for the Aura Sphere, but like I say, the Dunsparce is stupid bulky even with no investment, but mine is max special defense, so we take that, taking about 60%. We are going to get our Citrus Berry back, which puts us in a really healthy range of HP. Gonna go for the Boom Burst, and that is going to take out the Raikou. So once again, the Dunsparce coming through for me, taking out a big setup threat to the rest of my team. So now in is going to come the Infinite, and I want no part of this. Absolutely not. I do not want to be taking a close combat to the face. There is still every chance that the Dunsparce can still do a fair amount of work in this match. But I still have my Passimian physically defensive, and I still have my Citrus Berry intact on it. So while I'm considering going into the Moltres here, Passimian is most likely going to be the play. If this is indeed a physical variant of Infinite, we should be taking those hits fairly well indeed. So, I'm going to call the Dunsparce on back, and as I say, I'm going to make the switch into my Passimian, coming in to hit the field as Rock Slide comes in. So, very fortunate that we didn't go into the Moltres, because that would have wiped me off the face of the earth. And I do want Moltres to stick around and do some work here. Now, it's monkey on monkey action, Infinite versus Passimian, but I will surely come out of this as the victor. Especially if this is like a choiced variant, and it didn't look like it was doing banded damage there, even with the Rock Slide, so I'm anticipating Scarfed. I am just going to go for the Drain Punch. I don't want them to take the risk of getting really ballsy and going straight into Ogerpon Cornerstone on a bulk up. So, in is going to come the Corviknight, and Passimian just going to go for the Drain Punch here and take it to around about exactly half health, and we get a good amount of recovery off of that Drain Punch. Corviknight is going to get some leftovers and just tick it over into the green. But it's at this point that I'm pretty sure the Brave Bird is going to be coming my way. They're not going to overpredict again, because this Passimian is already looking like a bit of an issue for them to try and take down. So, gonna make the play into Moltres right about now. Offensive, sure, but it'll take a Brave Bird. As you'll see, the Brave Bird is going to come in and do just under half, get some recoil damage, and unfortunately we don't get any Flame Body. So we've gone from monkey versus monkey to bird versus bird. Now, they're not going to want to stay in here, I'm pretty sure. But either way, I am still going to go for the Fire Blast. There's nothing that overly wants to take this hit, outside of maybe a dedicated Muck. But I am just going to go for the Fire Blast anyway, on the off chance that they stay in, overpredict, and U-turn. So they are just going to switch on out of there. Unfortunately for me, not going to take any risks with Moltres, and in is going to come the Muck. We're going to go for Fire Blast, and it is going to do what it does best, and it is going to miss. That's unfortunate, but if this is, for example, an AV Muck, it would have done no damage. Now, Moltres is naturally quite bulky, and while Muck is clearly going to be brought here for this Moltres, I am just going to stay in and go for the Scorching Sands. That way we can scout for an Assault Vest, and we can maybe even snag a cheeky burn. And it's a Muck, like we should be living any hit it's going to go for. So going to go for the Scorching Sands. Like, I respect Muck as a mon, but I'm like, there's no way it's going to be able to kill a Moltres from this range. And then it just does. I forgot that Muck got Rock Slide, so that is a problem. We don't get the burn with Scorching Sands, and from that damage, it's very clearly an Assault Vest set, and very invested to boot. Moltres unfortunately goes down. This is looking like the Excalibur, the Corviknight, might start to become a bit of a problem here. But with Muck in front of us, clearly Assault Vest, and probably not massively invested in attack anyway, this is looking like free real estate for Iron Treads to come in and try and do some work. So, in does come the Iron Treads. Now, if this Muck is not offensively invested, a Drain Punch, which I'm pretty sure it will have, is not going to be coming close to 2-hit KOing. So I'm fairly free to go for a Rapid Spin here, and make sure I can outspeed stuff like a non-choice Scarf Infinite, which I'm thinking it probably is, but more importantly, an Ogerpon Cornerstone that might want to try and low-kick us into oblivion. So I am just going to go for the Rapid Spin. Should be able to tank any one hit from this guy. Rapid Spin going to come in and take the Muck to around about 55-ish% maybe. We get our speed boost, and as you'll see, it is going to be the Drain Punch, but it is not doing over half to us, which is very nice indeed. They're not going to get all that much recovery back either. This Muck is very much in range of Life Orb Earthquake, so I am just going to click it. If they want to go into the Corviknight, it's taken enough damage from my Passimian that, excuse me, unless they're very physically defensively invested, a Supercell Slam should be doing the damage. And as you're going to see, we're going to be able to see that matchup happen. It is going to be the Corviknight coming in on my Earthquake, which of course is going to do nothing to it. So yeah, the Corviknight is in, it's going to get a little bit of leftovers back, but as I say, unless they are super physically defensive, we should be able to take them out with a Supercell Slam. I am taking the risk of the Mamoswine coming in on this, but I'm rather thinking they're not going to make that play, so I'm just going to click Supercell Slam. We do land it, and that is going to take down the Corviknight. So, a big threat to my team on the defensive side is neutralized, and now we are in with a Life Orb, 50-ish%, +1 speed, Iron Treads. So in comes the Infinite, and I'm like, okay, this is very scarfed. I mean, it's the only thing they could have done. Like, the Ogerpon Sturdy is still intact, but it doesn't really want to take on an Iron Treads unless it has the low kick or the Stomping Tantrum. But this is kind of screaming scarfed Infinite. I don't have a Moltres to go into on it, but I do still have the Citrus Berry on my Passimian, which is putting in a lot of work defensively. Any stab move from the Infinite is going to destroy my Iron Treads. But if it's physical, which it's looking to be, we should be able to take any given 2 hits with our Citrus Berry on Passimian. So, in is going to come the Flare Blitz. That is going to do a decent amount over half of what we have left. But, as I say, we have the Citrus, and that is going to take us out of range of another Flare Blitz from this guy. Which is wonderful. Very nice indeed. Now, they're certainly looking to be Choice Scarfed. The way it's been played would dictate that. I don't want to go for a bulk up here necessarily, just because the switch into the Ogerpon could still come. Drain Punch is still looking pretty free though, so that is probably what I'm going to be going for here, just in case they want to stay in and try and chunk down this guy to make way for the Ogerpon. Now, Nova knows that Infinite is not taking out Passimian from this range of health. They are going to make the play into the Muck right about now, as I'm just going to go for the Drain Punch, putting Muck to around about 55-ish% once again, and we get up to, once again, a nice amount of health on Passimian. But I am fairly speed invested for a bulky build, and I'm rather thinking that an Earthquake should be good enough to take out this Muck. So, gonna go for the Earthquake, and that is indeed going to take out the Muck. I didn't want to take the risk of going for bulk up on, say, a Poison Jab or a Gunk Shot. Could have done a decent amount of damage, could have got the Poison. Didn't want to take that risk. So now, the Muck is down. The Passimian is at a very good amount of health. What is left is a 1 HP Mamoswine, a probably Choice Scarf Infinite, and an Ogerpon Cornerstone. There is a world in which Passimian can just see this game out. Now, it is going to be the Ogerpon Cornerstone that comes in. They are going to have to Encore here, otherwise I'm going to Drain Punch them into Oblivion and 2-hit KO. An Earthquake is looking like maybe a 3-shot if they're not particularly invested. So I know the Encore is coming, but I want to break the Sturdy. So there indeed is that Encore, but like I say, I need this thing to take some damage to make way for other things potentially. So in is going to come the Earthquake. That is going to do probably over 33% of what they've got, so it's looking like a fairly clean 3-hit KO here. So actually, knowing that I'm physically defensive, I'm going to stay in and keep clicking Earthquake. Not least because there's actually nothing I really want to go into to try and take 2 hits from an Ogerpon Cornerstone. I know firsthand how much damage that thing can do to a team, especially when it's backed against the wall and it just needs to hit hard. So I'm going to stay in here, I'm going to keep clicking Earthquake and try and chunk this thing into range of, say, my own Ogerpon. In comes Horn Leech. That is going to do a good amount. It's looking like a roll to 2-shot me from here, and it gets back a good amount of health too. I am going to go for the Earthquake, and this is going to score a nasty crit.
I thought we were paid to get crits against him, not for him. This cannot continue.
Really nasty crit, and that is going to matter a lot, because in my counts, I had my hammer at +1 from bulk up, so I thought I should be doing more damage than I was. That's not quite the case. I also thought that meant that this was physically defensively invested Ogerpon Cornerstone, so I was kind of thrown by how little damage I was doing, and that crit is really going to help see how this game goes. Horn Leech is going to come in from the Cornerstone. That is going to take down my Passimian, who has done a stellar amount of work in this game. Here's the thing, because I had my counts wrong, I thought this thing was physically defensive. So I was therefore thinking, well, I'm going to go into my Ogerpon, I'm going to outspeed it, and I should be able to maybe kill through its investment with an Ivy Cudgel. Now here's the thing, they are just a max Ogerpon like me. We both have the same speed investment. This is a speed tie, not that I knew it. But I am just going to click the Ivy Cudgel under the impression that I'm guaranteed to outpace and see if we can take it out.
Alright, we've got a speed tie incoming. Let's get things in motion to make sure he does not win it.
We do win the speed tie. We're going to go for Ivy Cudgel. That is going to come through and take out the Cornerstone. If I hadn't got that Earthquake crit, we would not have taken it out and would have had to risk another speed tie. So we got lucky there in a big way. So now in comes the Mamoswine. Worth saying, by the way, shout out to waiting until the semi-finals of this stage for Ogerpon to get its first kill. Which is crazy, but yes, Ogerpon gets his first kill. Woohoo! Now, clearly they're going to be going for the Ice Shard here to get chip damage and try and end game with Infinite, but I do have the Yachi Berry, which is going to severely lessen how much damage this Ice Shard will do. We're going to go for Ivy Cudgel, and just like bosses, none come along for ages and then 2 at once. Ogerpon getting 2 kills, which is amazing. First 2 kills of its season. What this means though is that it's Infinite versus the world. Now this thing can do a lot of damage, but because of that Yachi Berry, it's going to take a whole lot more recoil from Flare Blitz than I think Nova was anticipating. What I'm going to do is stay in here and let Ogerpon take that Flare Blitz damage, because once the Infinite takes the recoil, it's looking like it will be in range of Primarina's Psychic Noise, and I won't have to risk a Hydro Pump in this. So, in is going to come the Flare Blitz, proving once and for all that this is indeed a Scarfed Infinite. Ogerpon is going to go down, but it got 2 kills, which is great, and as you'll see, that recoil damage is going to put the Infinite at around just above half of its health. Now, if he is Adamant Scarf, there is no way that this Flare Blitz is taking out my Primarina from this range. Unless there's a crit, and even then, I don't think it's a possibility. But they're going to be locked in on Flare Blitz. the recoil damage from Flare Blitz is absolutely going to put them in range of Psychic Noise. So I'm just running the counts here. That's why it's taking me a little bit longer. I wanted to make absolutely sure that this game could be sewn up. As you'll see, feeling confident, I'm going to go into my Primarina. As I say, feeling confident that I can take this Flare Blitz, and with the recoil damage that the Infinite will take, I don't have to risk a Hydro Pump miss. I should just be able to go for Psychic Noise. So, in comes the Flare Blitz from the Infinite, and that is going to do not enough damage. I don't think even a crit would have taken me out from there. I do get the burn, because why not? Better now than earlier on against the Passimian, that's for sure. But we are going to go for Psychic Noise, and as I say, with the recoil damage taken from Flare Blitz, it is a knockout on the Infinite. Down it goes, Primarina cleans up, and that is going to be the game. So, we take a big 3-0 win in the Singular Limbs semi-finals. Good game to Nova. Their links down in the description below. Once again, make sure you check them out along with everybody else. I mean, yeah, we did get lucky in that one. It has to be said. I took a bit of a risk with the Iron Treads going for the Supercell Slam, but I felt that was fairly calculated. Yeah, I did take some risks there, and I did get lucky, you know. My play against the Ogerpon, the Cornerstone on Nova's side, was a lot of luck. You know, the Earthquake crit into winning that speed tie was pretty huge and allowed us to neuter the threat, which could have come in late game after Infinite had gone down and start doing really nasty things to my team. Worth mentioning, by the way, we both prepped our base 80s to outpace a max invested Primarina, and we didn't take that into account on each other's side. So the Mamoswine actually speed tied with the Passimian as well. So that was interesting if that had ever really come to pass, which I don't think it did. But good game to Nova. They've had no manner of luck at all. They've played a really good season with the tools they were given, and unfortunately they've just had really rotten luck. And I was a part of that as well. So apologies to Nova for that. But ostensibly what it means is we are in the finals of the losers bronze bracket of the PPL NX Stage 1 playoffs. It's going to be interesting. I know who I'm against. Would you like to know who I'm against? Well, I'm going to tell you, so if you don't want to know, close your ears now, because I'm going to tell you. You thought my match against the Don Fanatic was a big one, a grudge match against a friend. Boy howdy are we playing Ellie and the Shanghai Dragons. My god, I'm looking forward to this one. We have had so many battles over the years. They are always a ton of fun. Ellie is just one of my best friends in the world. So I am hugely looking forward to this one. Should be great. That's going to go up tomorrow as the time of you're seeing this. So look forward to that. But I'm going to get out of here. I've rambled on far too long. So my final thank you to you all for watching. And I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.